The full moon, the first full moon of this year, is upon us. This is a full wolf moon. This is the moon that devours Mars. Maybe you'll be able to watch it, maybe you won't. Right about the fullness of the moon, and most of us in North America are going to be able to see this, the moon will cross over the path of Mars. It will hide Mars for a little while. And I've been thinking about that. What does it mean to have this surging rage, this kind of raginess? And let's say you're not necessarily attuned to how you're feeling rage right now, but let's just imagine that there's this undercurrent of, I don't even want to say anger, this undercurrent, this ragey breath underneath everything, with Mars being so close to us, just kind of provoking it. And then the moon, this moon in Cancer, the grandmother moon, the loving auntie, the soft, encompassing energy, just saying, oh, hey, let me get that for you. Let me reach out to you. What happens when she stands in front of insistence of Mars just for a breath? It's not going to be a long break, but just enough break to feel that soft hand on your forehead, the sweetness of a dreamless nap. I don't know if we'll feel that or not, because it hasn't happened yet. But maybe when you're listening to this, the moon will have made its crossing in front of Mars. Guess what? This is season 3, and I'm back. I guess I made a decision, a little ambivalently, but I just couldn't let it go. This is too good. It's too nice for me to talk to you this way. So here we are, back. Not even really a break, just one moon right after the other. Welcome back to season 3. What is going on anyway? Hello, I'm your host, Anne Headley, and this is my podcast, What is Going On Anyway, which I'm happy to say, if you didn't notice earlier, is in its 3rd season, and these aren't small seasons. I'm very proud to say I've been here for 2 full years of moons. In this podcast, I contemplate the current moon, new or full, and what that means for me as a pathway through daily life. I wonder over universal themes and how they show up for us through different moon cycles. And as I reach for meaning using my intuition and imagination, I find I'm discovering a richness in the simplicity of paying attention to life exactly as it is. I'm developing a relationship with the I Ching, as I have for many years, and I also call on the I Ching to bring additional guidance, as well as, sometimes I pull out some animal cards, some different oracle cards, and I love to use books as oracles too. So I'll just open a book, find a passage, and let that help tell the story of now. Last time on the podcast, I was talking about wishes. I had done this practice where I wished 13 wishes, and then every night between Christmas and Epiphany, I burned one wish. So I was left with one single wish on Epiphany, January 16th. And I had a hard time burning my wishes. I didn't want to let go of any of them. And in fact, I didn't let go of any of them. I have my list of wishes right here. I haven't let go of any of them. But the wish that I was left with was not the wish that I wished that I wished. It was like a wish that seems like a good idea to wish. But the wish that I wished that I wished, that I wished that I got that I wished, was the trip to Paris. Now, probably I could figure out some way to make that work, right? I don't know. Maybe that's not such a big wish. But the wish that I got, I'm like a little embarrassed about it. I feel like all this shame around it. I don't know why that's the wish that I got. I have processed, my friends are probably bored of this, but I have processed this a little bit. But it's not, it seems to me that the courageous thing to do is to share with you the wish that I received. So the wish that I unrolled, that I did not burn, is this. I wish for safe, sexual, intimate exploration. I chose those words, safe. And that exploration to me feels so personal. Like I don't need to necessarily explore what I'm trying to explore about my expression of sexuality. I'm not talking about relationship here, even though I do have a lovely, beautiful, safe, sexual relationship. Something about this for me feels like asking the questions that I never asked myself growing up of around sexuality and pleasure, because there was nobody to talk to. Even with friends, it was just like funny or silly. Even now, it takes a lot to get around to having safe, intimate sexual conversations with people. So, I don't know, like I'm so afraid of all of the shame around sexuality coming back to haunt me, like just being judged for wanting to explore my sexuality. And this is going to sound ridiculous to my book group ladies, who I'm the one that always brings up sex in book group. And here I am with this wish and feeling the intensity of, it's sort of like saying I want to hike Mount Everest, but really all I ever do is just hike the small hills around here. It's something like that. Like inside of me is a real desire to explore something for myself. And yet it's outside. It just feels outside of my comfort zone. I don't know. I don't know what the wish means. I feel like I've already said too much. I feel a little like throwing up now. I can always erase this, but also I just want to let it land. So one of my first assignments, I was like, well, let's just get academic about this. And so like, go research a human sexuality class. Like that's doable. The nerd in me is like, I can figure it out like that. And so a friend of mine, this is a popular trending book right now, and it's called All Fours. And I'm laughing because one of our friends keeps misnaming the novel. So if you haven't heard about it, it's one of these slightly titillating novels like 50 Shades of Grey, where there's going to be some sex in it. And while 50 Shades of Grey was sort of an introduction to the BDSM community for a lot of, is it fair to say a lot of white women? Because that was like hugely popular for white women, that book, married with kids, white women. And so I think this is another one that's hugely popular with the stereotype of married with kids, folks that found themselves somehow just landed into a heterosexual, monogamous marriage, standard, like the standard American diet, the standard American marriage. And so this book is exploring a character who questions all of that and has an open relationship. And you just get to see and read about this character's exploration of her sexuality. It's super interesting. So I forgot to tell you, this is Miranda July. But back to what we've been laughing about. Because it's one of these, we know that this novel is about sex. This friend of ours keeps calling it the 4 directions, which maybe is not as hilarious to you. I'm sorry, I'm not a good joke tell. I'm not good at this, but it's just so funny to think about this book being sort of like a sex book, and it's called The 4 Ways, the 4 directions, up, down, front, and back. And we just, we had a good laugh about that. At any rate, it's called All Fours. And I'm probably giving something away if I say why it's called All Fours. But it has to do with the stability of being on all fours. Okay, I'm just saying, I finished the book. I did my first homework assignment. As I was preparing for this podcast, I thought I was going to read all my wishes, but I don't think I am. I think it's enough for you to know the wish that I'm working with, that I'm wrangling with, and being in relationship this year. The other 12 wishes, maybe they'll come out, but I'm just holding them in a safe place for myself right now, looking through them and being proud of myself for wishing so well. I'm thinking about your wishes and how the folks that I shared wishing with this season, that their wishes are my wishes, and my wishes I offer out to you and I offer to them, that it's okay for us to collectively wish things. And isn't it nice that you may be wishing for something that I just can't attend to right now, but that you can? And that it's like you can do it for us. And that makes me feel hopeful. And in the realm of wishing, if you don't have a list somewhere in your many notebooks of 100 dreams that you dream, maybe you want to. I'm only saying this because it seems like it would be easy to write down 100 dreams, and it could be 100 dreams, 100 wishes, 100 desires. That might be a better way of thinking about it. But I can tell you, I'm only up to 21. I find it really challenging because I think, oh goodness, if I got the first 5, I would be not only busy, but so satisfied. So it's still a challenge for me, and maybe by the end of this year, I can have 100 dreamy, wishy desires, and maybe those desires can get simpler than the ones that keep me super busy. 100 wishes, 100 desires for this year. Because I'm going to tell you, my feeling, like as an intuitive, is that this year is not going to go as planned. And so it feels like everything needs to come back to center, and that this outward is needing to come back and recycle into our centers. I mean, I always think about that in terms of the way I feel about personal energy. But like this year, I don't know if you noticed, in my inbox, I'm getting all kinds of new year, new you kind of newsletter offerings. Join this course, read this book, do this thing. And I have such a different perspective. You remember back during pandemic time, it was a real kind of like opening, reaching. How do we do this when we have to stay still? And there was like this great big arms reaching out, networking, finding. I took classes from like a dance teacher I hadn't seen since 1994. I took his ballet class online, and it was like so much reaching out and back and around. And so now I never really did catch up after all of that reaching out. So right now I'm feeling this need to kind of like, I know it's the wrong season, but it's a feeling almost of letting those leaves drop, letting something go so that I get back to some kind of essential way of being. It makes me feel like I want to change the way I communicate with people, the way I handle my offerings in the world. I don't know what that means. I don't know that I'm going to be innovating anything. I feel like I'm going to be going backwards and having more personal conversations. I'm sitting here thinking about what it is that I'm trying to say. And it's closer to that I know more what I want to do and what I don't want to do since 2020. And that I can get more clear about who I communicate that with, knowing that there is a real relationship that we can develop, rather than this kind of like broad fishing. I wonder if the world wants me like this. It's like, well, what do I want from the world? And how do I specifically go to create the relationships that I need in order to feel, be, and do that? Okay, so back to what is going on anyway. Always asking. I really don't understand the point of all of this consciousness if we don't really have a good sense of why. That's probably just a constant question, but sometimes there are these little flashes of, it's for love, and not that you can say these words and make sense, but sometimes that answer, because love, being the answer, because love, sometimes it washes through me emotionally, and I'm like, yeah, that's what we're here for. We're here for love, because love. And then I sort of feel that kind of hippie energy coming through, like, yeah, man, we're here for love. And I believe it, and I'm skeptical of it. So I'm somewhere in there, and I pulled out this stack of quotes that they tied together, they chained together beautifully. And I hope it will translate as I bring this to you. Let's see if it works. So the first thing I picked up is lectures on the Tao Te Ching by Manjan Cheng, and it's Lao Tzu. My words are very easy to understand. That's the title of this. And this is chapter 51. Tao propagates life. Te provides fecundity. So we're saying Tao is the path, Te is virtue. Species shapes life, affinity brings to completion. That's why all living things revere Tao and kneel down to Te. Tao inspires reverence, and Te inspires awe, because they give no commands, and yet nature continues on and on. Thus Tao creates life, and Te conceives, grows, fosters, shelters, comforts, nurtures, and protects it. Producing, but not possessing. Acting, but not controlling. Growing, but not slaughtering. These are mysterious Te, the virtues. I just said that. That's not part of what I'm reading. So this idea for me in this is, what is it to produce and not possess? To act and not control? To grow and not destroy? So that's the first bit. The next book that I picked up is one that I've used before. This is not totally on purpose. It's just that this book was landed on my desk the last time I used it, and then I didn't put it back on the bookshelf. And it's Introduction to Tantra, A Vision of Totality by Lama Yeshe. And I opened to a chapter about cultivating the middle way. Non-duality. What is the middle way? What is it to perceive life and not take a stance? This is kind of something that I aspire to. What is it to take life as it comes without deciding whether that's good or bad? And one of the things in this, I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but it was saying, how do we know a rainbow exists? because a rainbow depends on your perspective, that the rainbow exists because you see it. And is it real? Well, yeah, it's a real phenomenon. But is it, somebody on the other side of the rainbow without the right angle to the droplets and the sun doesn't see the rainbow, but it's still real. So they were using that. And then I'm going to read you this last part. The practical conclusion of all this is to refrain from immediately accepting all our dualistic appearances. So it seems to be, if you immediately have a judgment, good, bad, right, wrong, this, that, they just go in to say it. I need to just shut my mouth and read. This and that, good and bad, etc., as being ultimately true. So we want to refrain from that. It's not to stop that from happening, because of course that's going to happen. We're good like that. We've got the ability to tell this from that, which is a fun thing, right? This is a good thing about us. We can tell this from that. But instead of letting that mean something more than our perception, we want to give ourselves some space. We don't want to deny them completely. Instead, we should remain a bit loose, a bit skeptical. We should be aware that because objects now appear to us so concretely as this and that, they have the power to lead us into conflict and confusion. If we are clearly aware of this, we will not allow ourselves to fall so readily under their spell. And if we then train ourselves to contemplate the basic clarity of the mind in which these appearances arise, we will be able to enter an experience of non-duality in which all conflict and confusion ultimately subside. Imagine the thing about the rainbow appears and then somebody's told you that once you see the rainbow, all you have to do is get to the end of the rainbow and there's a pot of gold for you. And think about if that is absolutely true and you're sure that rainbow exists outside of your perception of it, and you go chasing for the pot of gold, and then everybody goes chasing for the pot of gold, and there's arguments about where the rainbow is and where it was, and you can create worlds upon worlds about conflict based on these dualities. So I think that's what we're trying to move away from, the fixed perceptions, fixed realities. This seems important to me. Okay, next. The next one that I picked up is Lectures and Writings by John Cage, and this is the book Silence. I opened to page 151. Time, which is the title of this piece, so many minutes, so many seconds, is what we and sounds happen in, whether early or late, in it. It is not a question of counting. Our poetry now is the realization that we possess nothing. Anything, therefore, is a delight, since we do not possess it, and thus need not fear. And lastly, from a book I first read as a teenager, taken off of my parents' bookshelf. I don't know if they even read it. I don't remember talking to them about this. It's called Mr. God, This is Anna by Finn. And it says a true story. It can't be light. Anna gave that sentence a finality that was irrefutable. So fine, I said. If it can't be light, what is it? Mr. God can't be light. The words flew like stone chippings as Anna hacked away with her mental chisels. P.S. Anna's like 4 years old and Finn is a grown-up. I could imagine Mr. God edging forward on his golden throne and peering down through the clouds, a little anxious to know what kind of a mold he was being forced into now. I had the itch to look upward and say, "Relax, Mr. God, just relax. You're in safe hands." I reckon Mr. God must get a bit fed up now and again, considering all the various shapes we'd pressed on him over the last 1,000 years, and I don't suppose we've come to the end of it yet, not by a long chalk. He can't be light, can he? Can he, Finn? Search me, Titch, search me. Well, he can't be, 'cause what about them little waves we can't see? And the big waves we can't see, what about them? See what you mean. I reckon things would look a whole lot different if we could see by those waves. I think the light's inside us. That's what I think. Could be. Could be you're right, I said. I think it's so's we can see how to see. She nodded her head. That's what I think. Upstairs, Mr. God, if you'll pardon the image, slapped his leg and turned to his angel hosts and said, "How about that? How about that?" Yes, continued Anna, the Mr. God light inside us is so's we can see the Mr. God light outside us. And Finn, she jumped up and down with excitement as she rounded it all off. The Mr. God light outside us is so's we can see the Mr. God light inside us. She played the whole melody over again to herself in silence, with a grin that would have put the Cheshire cat to shame. She said, "That's nice, Finn. Ain't it nice?" And that reminds me of some more stuff around wishes. We were talking wishes, and then Lisa said to me, "Wishes are like candles." And I thought, oh, wishes are like candles. So what if your wish is a candle and it's just your only job is not to blow it out? Just the image of that works so well for me, because some people's wishes light other people's wishes, and some people's wishes are beacons from afar. And what if your wish, whatever it is or whatever it may be, if you haven't been cultivating a relationship with wishes recently, but what if your only job is to hold it and not blow it out, not be the one to blow it out? Okay, now I think that's profound. So I'm just sitting in the wonder of this. And I pulled a soul oracle card. I was like, I'm not done. It's the first one of the year. I want all the juice. So, I love this one, Sonia Choquette, soul oracle cards. And I paused and I took a moment, and this is the card that I pulled. I am not joking you. It says, "Shine your light." Shall I read that one to us? Hang on, let me look it up. This is what it says for Shine Your Light. Open your heart fully and take all necessary risks so that your spirit shines out far and wide. Trust the gifts and talents that the universe gave you and commit yourself to their full development to serve both your Creator and your fellow humans. Don't hide your light under a bushel, as Jesus counseled in the Sermon on the Mount. It's appropriate to use whatever stage you command to seek attention when you then use it to further the divine light in others. Okay, well, you know what? I didn't know there was a theme here until there was a theme here. This is about our light, and somehow that's connected to what we wish for. That, can you imagine if your deepest desire is the world's deepest wish for you? Like, that's just a beautiful coincidence, isn't it? Maybe that's the way the world is made, but it feels like a lovely coincidence too. Let's see, without further ado, what does the oracle have to tell us? What does the I Ching want to share in addition to all of this good, rich, it feels like feasting for this full moon? Maybe this is the Cancer part of the moon in Cancer, that full, rich, abundant, feasty type feel. But also, because it's a full moon, let's not forget, it's exhausting. So please, I know that we don't always sleep well during the full moon. Take time to rest. I love baths during full moon time. Recommending baths, time, rest, slowly emerging into this new year of 2025. Okay, dear Oracle, what would you have us know for this first full moon of the year 2025? Oh my gosh, it just keeps getting better and better. We get hexagram 42, increasing. What would you do if you knew you were blessed? What if there were no limits? What could change for the better? The old Chinese character for increasing shows a pot filled to overflowing. It means blessings and superabundance, like the timely rain that brings a rich harvest. Increase simply flows without limit. There's no need for restrictive frameworks to contain it, but for only tools to work with it. When you are blessed, it is good to respond with purpose and movement, participating in the increase, pouring more in. You'll receive more in return. Let yourself imagine where you want to be and take the first steps that commit you to going there. This is how to keep the momentum. The hexagram does have two changing lines, 1 and 5, and it moves to hexagram 23, stripping away. The questions to ask: what has worn out? Is there a less painful way to let this go? And what is underneath the surface? And for me, stripping away has been a hard one over these last 10 years. When I get stripping away, it feels like, big changes. Constantly got this one during my divorce, splitting apart, stripping away. But in this case, after 42 abundance, the feeling is more how clear it is that you're ready to let something go, that this outfit doesn't fit anymore. It's easy to let it go. That the stripping away in the face of abundance is a different kind of splitting apart. It's a kind of, like I've said before about that feeling, even though it's the wrong time of year, but that autumnal feeling of letting the leaves drop, letting things get to their essence and to their core, and seeing the outline of things for what they are. So I do not feel fear in this one, this stripping away. That's it. We did it. I'm back. I decided. I'm here and happy. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy that by doing it, I could feel the wanting to of doing it. I can feel the desire in the podcast rather than the, I give myself a really hard time of this procrastinating before doing it and kind of putting myself on the spot of having to do it right. And I think maybe I could give myself the task this year of just doing it, just letting it be. I'm getting better and better softening with myself around just enjoying the process and being here in this. I actually love being in this little space. It's like I sit here on the floor with my cushions, and it's kind of like a walking meditation. So thank you for being here, because you provide the reason. Knowing that you're listening to me gives me the reason to do it. I probably, if nobody ever listened, I might not keep doing it. I think there's a nice, lovely, healthy, beautiful exchange here. So thank you for that. That's it. Next time, we've got a new moon. And if you want to find out more about me, you can look at my sometimes updated website, www.annhedley.com. That's ANNHEDLY.com. You can find me on Patreon. That's patreon.com/WaterMoonStudios, all one word. Thank you for being here. Until next time, may you be well, may you know peace, and may all beings everywhere, whether known to me or unknown, be well, and may they know peace.